This is a show for grown-ups.
And they say bad words.
And they say bad words.
Say final warning.
Final warning.
Hello and welcome to Jumping the Street Shark, the internet's #1 podcast. Season 2, Episode 7, Shark Fight.
Shark Fight.
This aired November 14th, 1994. Do you remember what you were doing on November 14th, 1994?
Getting hungry for that turkey dinner. You know me.
Tell you what Bill Gates was doing that week. He bought Leonardo da Vinci's Codex for just under $31 million.
So I did some math on this because I was trying to avoid doing real work at work. At this point, he was worth $9.35 billion in 1994, right? Mm-hmm. So that one purchase of nearly $31 million was 0.3% of his fortune. Not 3%, 0.3. That's the equivalent of you and I, Richard, spending about $200 on something. And in no way is that miserably depressing.
But we got patrons.
Thanks, guys. In 1 billion more years, we can get a codex. That's our next goal. To hell with microphones. I want that codex, though. Also, then, the first female president of Sri Lanka was elected? Yeah, that's what happens to presidents, right? They get elected. And her name was Chandrika Kumaratunga.
Very nice.
I've been practicing in the mirror.
Mm-hmm. And Dale Earnhardt wins the 44th NASCAR Sprint Cup.
Yep. And you know what's funny about that? I did not have to look up that date. I knew that.
The fuck you say?
Yeah, because that was November 13th is when that happened. I remember it very clearly because that's the last time I ever saw my dad smile. He's not dead. He's just a curmudgeon. I just want you all to know that. R.I.P. Intimidator. The first public trains run through the tunnel. But I do have some sad news, though. Michael Greason Jarrett, famed archaeologist and gay rights activist, dies at age of 60. His timeless classics live on, however. Might I suggest his article, 16th and 17th Century Farmsteads, West Welpington, Northumberland. Or, if you're looking for longer fare, I recommend his book, Witten, an Iron Age and Roman farmstead in South Glamorgan.
Yeah, but remember when Sweden agreed to join the European Union?
Yeah, that happened. That was pretty cool.
It's liver clobbering time. Let's play the Street Sharks drinking game. Now, Nate, what are the rules to our drinking game so far?
Whenever the Sharks do the thing they're named after, jab punches, slamoo slams, take a drink.
But we've amended this, as we always think about this halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
When Streaks checks himself out in the mirror, that is like the PG equivalent to whipping his dick out at a football game.
Yep, so that totally counts as his doing his thing.
I want to make sure we're on the same page here. Whenever there's a horrible fish pun, I want you guys to take a drink.
Whenever Ripster gives somebody a cool nickname, Finmeister, Jaw,
Meister. Basically anything with Meister.
Yeah, pretty much just the Meisters.
Anytime we...
Hey, I didn't say my thing. Take a drink.
Anytime we see our beloved guy in the sky, take a drink.
Whenever we're reminded that the Street Sharks are not and in no way associated with those Ninja Turtles, take a drink.
Anytime there's any gene slamming or any other pseudoscience bullshit, take a drink.
Whenever we're just blessed with the visions of glorious 90s technology, take a drink.
Whenever it's revealed that Dr. Paradigm owns another piece of property in Fission City, take a drink.
Whenever we get the return of a beloved character, which happens
twice.
2 or 3 times in this episode, yeah, take a drink.
But the 90s didn't also give us great tech. They also gave us great slang.
Bodacious.
Tubular. Take a drink.
All right, so whenever they say one of their catchphrases, and this is a little addendum we should have put earlier, but we didn't because we're jokesters like that. If you hear an echo when they say their shit, it's 2 drinks. Double whammy.
And anytime Dr. Paradigm transforms into the evil, more evil Dr. Paranoid, Take a drink. Anytime one of the characters, not just the sharks, say their catchphrase.
Take a drink.
Whenever there's blatant, lazy, recycled animation, take a drink.
Ooh, that is tough.
Yeah, especially this episode. I'm pretty sure
really...
10 minutes of this episode is stock footage.
Yes.
Hey, are there any you want to add this week?
Whenever you see one of the characters get hucked into another character, take a drink. I don't know that it happens this episode, actually, but it's in there, historically.
Okay.
I don't really have anything new to add, so let's shark dive into it, shall we? We have it outside a mall, not a chain link fence to be seen. But that's not where the action is. The real action is underneath, in Shark HQ, where Ripster and Lena are doing some sciencey things on a computer, while also helpfully recapping the last handful of episodes.
It's like they got away from it for a couple episodes. Like the whole gene slamming thing became secondary.
Yeah.
So they just went back and like recapped all their various schemes.
They said first, Piranoid tried to gene slam all of Fission City. Then he tried to gene slam the kids of Fission City with his evil popcorn. And now they have all the information to prove this. They finally have it, enough to bring Piranoid down. But who's going to believe them?
And you're going to take your first drink of the episode because all that stock footage, I think they're so proud of that like alligator monster hologram. They showed that like 4 times this episode.
That's so bad. Meanwhile, Jab is teaching Slemu how to headbutt. But instead of headbutting, he just punches the punching bag that Slemu was holding and knocks him on his ass.
I think it's to show like he needs to be prepared for anything. It's a real Mr. Magagi.
Mr. One of the Mr. Magagi.
Mr. Magagi. It's a real Mr. Magoo type of thing. Nope. Miyagi, yeah. It's a real Mr. Miyagi type situation.
Oh, Richard, you've done it again. We don't have time to dwell on that. Someone is breaking into Shark HQ. But wait a minute. No one, except for the Seviets, maybe, and Benz and Lena and Moby Lick, etc., 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 know they're here, so who could it be?
The one other person you didn't mention, our boy Rox.
Rox is back! Take a drink. Rox is back in town to get his award for being the best new artist of the year. But you know what? I was a fan back when he was Melvin Krasnick, personally. I liked his old stuff.
You fucking hipster.
So the camera cuts to Lena pointedly ignoring Rox. Like, was there some like sexual tension there? Because I just cut to her. She was on the computer like, this motherfucker again. I think there must have been some history there. I think she might have, had a couple too many Zimas one night and fallen into his animal magnetism. Rox compliments their boxing ring, and Slemu says, "Yeah, Ripster's gonna teach me how to box."
Why would you get boxing tips from Ripster? Jab, that's what he does. Figure out what Jab does. It's fighting.
Right? It's like, he was literally just teaching you, and he's like, actually, fuck Jab. Oh, maybe that was it. Maybe he was pissed at Jab, and he's like, Ripster's going to teach me how to box, because Jab's being a fucking punk.
Okay.
Rox is suddenly inspired to set up his stage for that night's concert as a boxing ring. He describes this really like elaborate thing, glowing turnbuckles, all this nonsense, to be implemented in a ceremony that is literally hours away. He invites Streaks on to be the drummer. He says he's got to write a brand new song he doesn't know yet. This gave me so much fucking anxiety.
He's more ill-prepared than we are for this show.
That takes some doing, let me tell you.
Like at least we attempt to make notes and watch the episode.
But I was like, you can't do that, man. Like, you got roadies going to be so pissed off hearing this. You're like, I got a great idea. No, you don't. You had an idea 3 weeks ago we could have implemented. It's too goddamn late now. Ripster says he doesn't have any suggestions about what he should play for the music. But he knows how to get everyone to listen. That wasn't the fucking problem, Ripster. Like, it's the best new artist of the year concert.
Right.
Like, people are going to show up, I'm pretty sure, man.
Well, no, because he's just trying to shoehorn his idea into his thing,
Right. Like when your brother-in-law's like, hey, you got a podcast? Let me come on and talk about my, like, pyramid scheme. And I keep saying, like, no, you cannot come on the show, Devin. Rox says, lay it on me, you razor-toothed soothsayer, which is really fun to say, and I like that. Ripster tells them they have to have a press conference. Next scene.
It's the old spooky hotel.
Ooh. Yep, we're back at the old creepy hotel where Rox first became Rox. A group of fans are gathered around chanting his name, while inside a gaggle of reporters ask him what this press conference is all about. Why are they even here? He said he's attached to this place because this is where he wrote his first song, which is horseshit. Maybe first song as Rocks, but not as Melvin Krasnick. And also, this is where he fell in love with Vision City, which A+ pandering from a rock star. It's like, I always said that Cleveland was the best city in America. It's like, boo, this is Pittsburgh. You fucking suck. Boo.
Your local sports team is very good.
Your rivals, not as much. Oh, and it's also where he learned the identity of the person behind all the attempted gene slammings. The Seviots are never one to miss a broadcast. I should say, Slash and Slopster are the ones that never miss a broadcast. Killamari's in the background juggling his harpoons, and that's not a euphemism. Paradigm rushes forward just in time to hear Rock say he's going to release this information at his award ceremony tonight. This makes Paradigm transform instantly. Take a drink. A reporter asks if this is just a publicity stunt. And Rock says, nope, he's got evidence on a computer disk. It's like a 5-inch floppy, too. It's not even like one of the 3.5s.
Yeah, because when it's in his hands, it looks... So why not just, if they have a press conference and all the news is there, why not just play the disc then?
Right. As soon as it's on the media, they'll repeat it later on. And if more than one network has it, it'll be hard to stop.
Which makes me think he's just in it for the views? Like, I don't think he wants to expose Paradigm at all. And Nate, how does his sunglasses stay on? He doesn't have ears. I
was thinking about that. He must have to have custom sunglasses made because his head is a fucking shark, so it's very wide. So shark skin is very sandpaper-like. We can all agree on that, right?
Right.
Is it rough enough to hold onto a pair of sunglasses? Or is it just like tension on his head, like it's like pinched to his temples?
I just assumed they were stuck in his gills.
That would be like wearing sunglasses in your throat. Like, that would be awful. So Killamari destroys the screen.
He hates TVs just as much as Slamu does.
I was glad to see it. But my favorite part about this was like he destroys the screen right away, and instantly Paranoid turns back into Paradigm. Like, oh, whew. What was it? Just the sight of these guys on TV that pissed him off so bad. As soon as it was gone, he's like a baby.
That was a legit funny joke, which I have to give it to this. He says, "This broadcast must be stopped," and he breaks the TV.
Yeah, and he's like, "Not like that." I
see you.
It's fine. Paradigm, now that he's calmed down, walks over to a refrigerator, takes out some cookies that he baked, and gives them to Killamari. Like all good transitions, we get that weird color wibbly-wobbly thing, and suddenly Killamari hulks above Paranoid. Paradigm orders him to attack Rocks, but instead, Killamari attacks him. He shakes the fuck out of Paradigm.
And all his pieces are falling off like cogwheels.
He just shakes the shit out of Paradigm. It's so awesome. The CVs say, "How dare he!" and rush to defend their boss/dad. Killamari throws Paradigm into a computer terminal and engages with the other Seviets. Despite being shaken apart, Paradigm tells the Seviets not to hurt Killamari. Which, again, what a good dude.
Yeah.
Like, he could have got another squid and started over again, but now he's got attachments. Like, he really cares for his people. Which, I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm saying that he's a gray character at worst. The Seviets grab Killamari and usher him out of the lab with orders to go capture Rocks and bring him to Paradigm. And boom, now we're back at Shark HQ. The boys are jumping on their vehicles and racing out there, including Moby Lick for some reason.
And not only in that one shot, a few seconds later they're going down a tunnel.
Yeah.
And they each get like their own little glory shot going past. And he's there in like the monster truck again.
This was from the episode where he appeared the second time. It's the entire exit scene of them driving away. Like, what the fuck?
Which means lazy recycled animation.
And the return of a beloved character.
Ooh, you counting that?
I am.
Thank God they weren't saying Jossum with an echo as they drove off.
No, that'd be too much.
All right, take you two and let's move on.
Now we're back at the old spooky hotel, and Rox is jamming out with some real fucking weirdos. Like, he's got women dressed up as boxers. He's got guys wearing foam shark heads.
Well, yeah, I assume that's his band of backup dancers, and they're reharsing.
But it's just like they're like in some drug den, like some crack house.
It's the only hotel in Fish City.
Why? There has to be better ones. Or is that part of his punk aesthetic?
It's like the Chelsea Hotel where like Sid and Nancy would hang out.
Right. So I love this scene because Streaks shows up and he's like, "I brought my drumsticks," and then it's like 5 seconds of him just like drumming on shit with the laziest Foley work of like rat-a-tat-tat, pat-a-tat, pat-tat-tat as he wanders around the room. So Rock says he wishes the place was bigger to accommodate the full setup, and Jab and Slamu accommodate this by biting through a wall with a big echoey shark bite.
Oh, see, I
What if
read
that
it as
was-
shark dive?
Well, they bit. They didn't dive.
I know, but they said dive.
It says shark something,
Okay.
and you have to drink. It's a rule. My dad said so.
We also missed then before that, Ripster says to Rox it's a jawsome song.
I have to believe you. I don't have it written down, but take 3 drinks just to be clear. So, Richard, what if that was a load-bearing wall?
It's not going to matter because this whole hotel's coming down in the next couple scenes.
So, but I think they didn't care at all because they know they're impervious to building collapse damage. They've been under 3 or 4 different building collapses now and come out without any problems whatsoever. So I think they just don't give a shit.
What, just fuck all the humans that are in the building?
They've never shown concern for collateral damage ever.
That's true.
Oh, except for when they were heading towards that train tunnel. But I think they were worried about the train tunnel. Rox says, "Talk about room service," because they ate part of the room.
Oh,
That's
shit.
That's awesome. Good job, guys. Ripster has a floppy disk with him. So, 90s tech, because no one fucking uses that anymore. What's this? The room begins to shake. Is it because of their careless destruction of support structures? No! It's Hulkamari! Wait, no, it's not. It's just Slash digging through the ceiling, and he's got a net. Like, you had Hulkamari. Why
Well,
don't...
he's there, too.
Yeah, but he should have been like Kool-Aid Manning through the fucking wall or some shit. He shouldn't have been like...
He can't. They destroyed it.
So Slash tosses the net over Rox. Slopster is also there suddenly, and he spears tackles Ripster. Slash picks up the net and hurls Rox through a closed door out into a hallway. All the rest of the guys shout, and a big echoey shark attack! And also suddenly Killamari is there too, and he looks pretty much normal size now.
Well, I think the cookies wore off.
Oh, but he's still full of rage and hard as a rock, so he's ready to go. He and Slopster are taking it to Ripster when the other brothers come to the rescue. Jad takes out Slopster as Shriek and Slemu attack Killamari. Killamari picks them both up at the same time and tosses them across the room. It doesn't count as them tossing him into something else.
No.
He's tossed, but it doesn't count. You cannot drink. Sorry. Put it down. He shoots some darts at Ripster, who blocks him with a bed. And then Ripster hurls the bed at Killamari and he says, "Sweet dreams, squid face." Jab tosses Killamari into a wall, and he sticks there, I guess, by his axe suction cups.
What? Okay, because I wrote, what is he sticking to?
Well, he's got suction cups on his back. We know that.
I thought that originally there was a picture frame there that had been knocked down, so he got stuck to the nail.
Oh, God, no.
So your
No, that wasn't it.
your thing's better.
Yeah, mine is probably appropriate for a kid's show. Ripster says, "Shark dive," and goes to the floor to rescue Rox. And like a nice older couple are from below slow dancing.
If this was live action, that would be Stan Lee and his wife.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The ghost of Stan Lee and his wife. Oh, in 94, they'd be very much alive.
Yeah.
But I love that. Like, people are like, "Whoa!" So Richard crushes right through the ceiling and the floor. In the room below, there's a real fucking odd job, like staring at himself in a mirror wearing his weird Rox costume. And Richard smashes right through behind him, and he kind of turns around and goes, "Cool." It's just like, it was so understated and perfect. These are the 2 best scenes in the whole goddamn thing. Meanwhile, Rox is being thrown down the stairs by Slash, not really overly fast.
How long are these stairs? Like, a lot has happened since he dropped him from... Did he go down to like 10 flights while this is happening?
Well, they're kicking him real slow, like he's falling like stair by stair by stair all the way down.
He's kicking him as he's going?
Yeah, just kind of like nudging him with his foot as they go down. So by the time... It's so stupid. Ripster lands in front of the front desk, just as Slash and Rox are coming down the stairs. And the concierge looks up and says, "There's an elevator, you know."
Hey, by the way, if he's going to be in our movie, Tony Shalhoub.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we're clear on that.
Yes, no argument here. I think Ripster made the right choice because everything else in this fucking place is in utter disrepair and falling apart. I wouldn't trust that goddamn elevator. There's no chance in hell. I'd rather jump through the ceiling and floor for several floors, past old couples and creepy weirdos. Ripster tells Slash to drop Rox, and he does, violently. Rox says something like, "You can't do this to me, I'm famous." Rox has all the best lines, man. By best, I mean stupidest. So they start circling each other like very, fight to the death kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, and he says,
yeah.
"Fighting is prohibited in the lobby."
So Slash throws a bunch of shit at him for his troubles, and Ripster dodges it all. The concierge rushes over to call the cops. Ripster picks up Slash and throws him into a pole.
And the guy just says, never mind.
Right, like,
No, get here even faster. Because now my
Yes.
property's being destroyed.
yes, mind, hurry up, please. Like, I could not understand any logic behind that. Not even cartoon logic.
The only
Like-
thing I'm thinking is that help, the street sharks are in danger. Street sharks just huck this guy. They're cool. The street sharks have it under control.
So Ripster picks up Slash and hucks him out of the building. He says, let me see your impression of a flying fish. That's pretty good. Take a drink for that. And Slash is outside now. He then jumps down a big hole surrounding the foundation of the hotel, because apparently the whole fucking thing is built on wooden scaffolding within a hole, like a 30-foot deep hole. What is this place?
Maybe it used to be a roller coaster that was converted to a creepy hotel.
All right. That makes a lot of sense then. They have Slash then, like, stabbing it with his nose, trying to break it apart. If you wanted the hotel to collapse, and that's great, why not have a hotel collapse? Cool. There's so many better ways in this episode to do that. You've already broken a support wall. You have Hulkamari fucking around. Like, you had 1,000 ways to bring this hotel down. You didn't have to invent a 30-foot deep pit of scaffolding to justify why it would fall down. You've already seen it in utter disrepair. Like,
Right, a stiff wind would blow that place down.
oh shit. One of the thousands of earthquakes that must hit Vision City on the regular. Meanwhile, Hulkamari, Jab, and Slimu are wrestling back in Rox's room. Streaks is soloing Slopster and yeets him out of a window. And while his brothers are fighting for their very lives from Roid Rage Squid, Streaks takes the time to check himself out conveniently in the mirror.
Well, we're going to get two things, because as Lobster's getting tossed out the window, we get a stinking shark.
We do?
We do.
Oh,
It's
man,
more like-
I missed that.
Stinking shark.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Like that.
So we get one of those, followed promptly by Streaks in the mirror. So there's a twofer.
So Streaks gets his comeuppance, though, because Killamari, like, body checks him into the mirror from behind before taking off into the hallway. Slimu chases him down, saying, it's 4th and 1, and he's gonna... Did you hear this? I'm gonna put your...
Backfield in motion.
I don't care for that. Don't worry, it gets much less erotic when he tackles him from behind. Killamari is in full juggernaut mode, though, and he just punches Slimu off a nearby balcony, and he calls him fish breath, which is, I think, the first time he's been verbal since taking the cookies, so he's definitely on the calm down now. So someone's got to, like, sit him down in a dark room, get him some orange slices, put him in a nice blanket, just make him feel, like, safe and normalized. Next
Sun's
scene.
getting real low, big fella.
This next scene is upsetting on every level. And I've already shared a screen capture of this to the Discord. It's going to be the image for this episode. We show Killamari riding the banister down several flights of stairs. And he's got no pants. He's got a belt on.
It makes him slide faster.
I'm so glad this fucking place collapses, because imagine touching that railing after not knowing what just happened. You had to burn that hand. There's no recovery from that.
It's covered in ink.
Normally I would be like, okay, well, they just fucked up the animation. They forgot the color in that spot. But they took the time to draw suction cups on his ass. Did you notice that? It's not just like a Ken doll thing. It's not flat. It's actually his suction cups on his ass where the shorts should be. They drew that on purpose.
Yeah, wouldn't his ass suction cups just stick to the banister?
Well, no, I guess they were higher up. He's like riding on his gooch. Anyway, much like our mental health, the hotel is collapsing all around us. We cut to commercial, and when we come back, it collapses. That's take a little break, build up the drama of it, but there really is none. The crowd that fled the building is upset because Rox is still inside. The hotel manager bursts out and says it's all the shark's fault for doing this, and he's glad they're fucking dead and buried in the fallen remnants of his livelihood. Or something like that. I don't really remember. But what's this? The sharks live because they have +2 resistance to building collapse damage. And they swim on out of the rubble with ease. One by one, they burst out of the ground, and the crowd announces them all individually. So I guess they must have gotten some good PR and really worked on their branding. That's awesome. Good for them.
One by one, except for fucking Ripster.
That's right.
And nobody
Where is he?
notices for minutes.
But as if on cue, as soon as one of the sharks goes, but wait, where's Ripster? He swims out separately, but the crowd does not give a solitary fuck. Nobody cheers, no one screams. He's like, oh yeah, he's there too, cool.
Well, they've seen it 4 times before. It's not special anymore.
So if you saw like a T-Rex jump out of your lawn 4 times in a row. You'd be like, and the 5th time you'd be like, oh,
Yeah, that, and he also didn't find the disc while he was down there, so they're disappointed in him.
Boo, poor showing, Ripster, go back. But, don't worry, he probably has, like, backups, right? Because who the fuck would make one disc?
Yeah, I wrote the same thing. Why not just make a backup?
Right, like, why don't you have, like, 1,000 discs and then give them to all the different companies? Broadcast it, put it up on the early part of the internet. They had message boards back then.
Well, that's the thing. This is a big video. This is probably minimally 800 megabyte.
Wow, that's a lot back then, though.
That's what I'm saying. It would never fit on a floppy. But again,
Thanks,
why not just give this to the Noose?
Meanwhile, Meanwhile, at Paradigm's lab, Paradigm is chewing them out for being failures. His helmet is still broken for being shaken apart earlier, so I guess he doesn't need to be in a sealed environment to live.
No, it just looks cool.
That's it, though? Like, he could have had it open the whole time. He just likes breathing in his own fucking breath.
Yeah.
He's like a sick mouth pervert. How does he brush his teeth?
I don't think he does. That's why he wears the helmet.
Oh, he's got halitosis, and he's finally like, this is my excuse. Nobody will ever mock me again for having such terrible breath.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
You gotta think, Nate.
The Seafates are looking forlorn, and Kilimari reveals he has the computer disk. Paradigm takes it and thanks him. Again, excellent boss, giving praise where it's due. And slides it into his disk reader. Paradigm nice. Paradigm sees all the evidence and then decides to doctor the information on it, doubtlessly incriminating the sharks for his crimes. And now we're back at the mall in Shark HQ. Lena is fervorously trying to recreate the disc in time for tonight's concert. Rips is like, "Can you do it? Can you do it?" And she's like, "If you fuck
shut
off."
the fuck up.
So now we're back at Paradigm right away. He's getting fitted for some new attachment for his newly repaired suit. Like he had like a new
This
head
cool
thing.
shark helmet that he doesn't wear the rest of the episode.
It looks kind of like a shark or a xenomorph maybe or something like that. I was like, this looks kind of awesome.
I'm sure it'll come up in the next couple.
Or it was like one of those attachments they were trying to pitch for the new toy and it just didn't take off. So he interrupts his tailor appointment to attend a meeting with the manager of the collapsed hotel. Of course, he dons his purple muumuu before his meeting because he doesn't want to, look unprofessional. The manager tells him that Rox is actually a quote-unquote creepy nerd named Melvin Krasnick. Paradigm thanks him for his time, hires him for some nondescript job because he's like, "You're out of work, right? Let me help you out. Anyway, bye."
But is it a big secret that Rox was Melvin Skrillex?
Rox was Skrillex.
Yeah. No, but was that such a big secret?
Yeah, no one knew. Except for the hotel manager.
It's so obvious.
Yeah, because they look so similar with their completely
Long
changed
hair.
physiology and new clothes.
Long hair.
No, because he's got like crazy like rock 90s like hair metal hair.
He was supposed to open the concert at the Dress Like Your Favorite Superhero convention, right?
Mm-hmm.
He never shows up, and all of a sudden a musical shark does in his place.
Yeah. Thank God, huh?
Nobody put 2 and 2 together?
No, they're idiots. There's something in the water in Pigeon City that makes people fucking stupid.
No, what's in the water will gene slam them if it's combined with salt.
That's true.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was a big secret that he's Melvin Sneebly.
Krasnick, whatever.
Krasnick.
Who the fuck is Melvin Sneebly?
Then we get a bunch of stock footage of Rox's origin, so take a drink.
Now it's the night of the concert. Rox is getting pampered backstage as he waits to go out and entertain the millions of fans waiting for him. It turns out Lena was able to create a new disc in time. This is such a massively important job with the one remaining disc that can do this. And he's like, "Hey, you look like a fucking trustworthy asshole. Here, take this." Why?
Well, because he runs the TV board.
Why wouldn't they have Benz like come in and do this, or Lena, or Ripster even, somebody who they can trust to do it? I get why they have to do certain things, but there's like smarter ways to do it than this episode's done every fucking thing in this episode so far. And like, I know it's a kid's show. I know it's from the 90s and it's aged terribly. But like, oh man, this episode frustrated me more than I think any other episode has. That's saying something. Anyway, the MC/owner of the concert hall, who we saw in an earlier episode and we all loved, take a drink.
Oh, I wasn't even considering him.
Well,
Actually, did we take a drink for the concierge?
I think him and the concierge together count as one actual character because really no one gives a fuck about them. They're not like as big as like Rat Scorpion, Anyway, that guy announces Rox and we see Benz, Lena, and Paradigm in the audience. Paradigm has this fucking shitty, smug look on his stupid face. Oh, he has backpfiffen gesucht.
A face you want to punch?
Yes, a face in need of a fist. The curtains pull back, revealing the super sweet boxing ring Rox came up with mere hours ago. And a puff of pyrotechnics and smoke erupt out of it. The band, with Streaks on drums, rises into the ring.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Shut the fuck up. Who did you forget at 13 minutes and 56 seconds?
Woohoo!
Who does a quick flyby to announce the night show?
Oh!
Take a
Take a
drink.
drink.
I got a musical nitpick. Streaks is the drummer for the band, and he gives them a count-in before they start rocking the house.
Yeah.
Why does he give him a 3 count in a song that's in 4/4?
Our bros are bopping backstage, but you know who else is back there? Seavians! They're pushing their way through a crowd of fans and crew members, and the Sharks, who are, suddenly on stage as part of the act in boxing. Ripster sees the Seavians, and is like, Shark attack! And they rush to engage them in melee. So what kind of cracked me up, though, is they go to fight the Seavians, and they kept their boxing gloves on. Like, I think you'd want to have those off for this, right?
It's part of the show.
So they're trying to keep the illusion on, like, oh, this is normal. Don't be afraid, children. They don't want to ruin their best friend's good time.
Right. I don't get why they would do this to mess with Paradigm's plans. He wants Rox to have a good show. He wants Rox to play the disc. If the Seavians come and mess everything up, there's a chance that won't happen.
Was it to distract them from...
There's nothing to be distracted.
Yeah, exactly.
He plays the show, plays the disc, his plan goes off without a hitch.
Maybe he thought it would get more people watching if they heard there was a Street Shark Seavians battle, and then more people would tune in. It's like, I wouldn't turn on the show for fucking Rocks. But if I heard there was, like, gene-slammed humans battling it out on stage, I'm watching that shit.
Maybe.
It's must-see TV, baby. Paradigm is in the audience looking displeased. He leaves the concert and heads outside, and then he decides to go on the roof for some reason with his grappling hook. So he zoops it up on the building, and he zoops himself up there. And then he uses a skill saw built into his suit to break into the building that he just fucking left and walked to the sound booth. Like, there's stairs inside the building. Why?
Dr. Paradigm sneaking around is like my favorite thing ever. He's not inconspicuous at all. He's conspicuous. And just the way he's like sneaking around. And later on when he just walks out of the door backwards is like the funniest fucking thing in the world to me.
I wish he was whistling the whole time. It's like a fucking refrigerator wandering the halls. Like, got nothing weird to see here, so it'll be cool. Don't worry, he's got a moo-moo and a fishbowl on his head, so he's like kind of discount Mysterio if you think about it.
Yeah, but he wasn't wearing the moo-moo when he was sneaking.
No, he was in his regular ass costume, right?
If you want to call it regular, yeah.
Well, regular for him. So he swaps out the good tape for his doctored tape and stealthily sneaks out of the room. And I mean, despite how stupid that sounds, it worked.
He's wearing headphones.
Back downstairs, we see the Sharks continue to box the Seavians on stage. In between shots of the guys punching, they keep recycling the same image of the crowd cheering, and it seems like 4 times in a row.
Did you notice, though, it's the crowd from the Dress as Your Favorite Superhero Day?
Yeah, absolutely.
There'd be no reason they'd be dressed like that at this particular show.
I mean, we've established that these animators are the laziest fuckers in the world.
So take a drink.
Yeah. If I could say one thing for using recycled animation, at least they all had pants. That we know of, because it was kind of torso up, I think. So Killamari now suddenly has boxing gloves on, and with no explanation as to why this happened or when. But regardless, now the action is on Slimu and Killamari boxing in the ring. The fight goes on for far too long. All the while, the fantastic tunes are playing in the background, which is great. You know, that means Rox is a real professional. He's not going to stop this. He's going to keep the action going. People keep to see him, and damn it, they're going to see him.
Right, but then they have an overhead shot of the ring, and it's completely empty except the two. The ring inside is empty, but the two people fighting. Where's the band?
Everyone knows you can't see Sharks from straight above. That's why they're blue. Slimu seismic slams Killamari up into the catwalk above the stage.
With an echo.
Yes.
Slamu slams.
With an echo.
Catchphrase with an echo.
So that's 3 drinks.
No.
Is that 4 drinks?
That's 4 because the echo is a multiplier.
That's right. Thank you. Of course. So he flies up into the air, smashes into the catwalk, flies down right into a haymaker from Slimu. He flies through the air and ends up right in Paradigm's lap. Paradigm is like, fuck off. And the whole crowd watches this happen. Like, they show the crowd's reaction to it. And Calamari just stands up and kind of looks like a hurt puppy.
It just slowly walks away.
Like you can hear the Hulk walking away sound like doo 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 doo. It was so sad. So the concert ends mercifully, and Rox comes out and stays to get his award. Rox thanks those that voted for him and says there's something even more important. He then plays the video that he has on his disc, which shows the real perpetrator behind these awful crimes.
We missed a fantastic somewhere in there.
And somewhere earlier, there was a fantastic that happened.
Whatever.
So drink that too. But guess who it was, Richard? The mayor of Fission City.
Another return of a beloved character.
No one
Is
likes
she
the mayor.
beloved?
The crowd is stunned by this allegation. The mayor denies it, and then we fade to black. We're back at Shark HQ, and the Sharks are watching the coverage of the events. They talk about how Paradigm now has a mayor in his pocket. Slamo asks, Paradigm controls the mayor. Is the rest of the city far behind? Ripsa says, not if the Street Sharks have anything to say about it. The three brothers shout a big, echoey, Jossum! And smash their heads together. The end!
Favorite episode so far?
This is the worst episode so far.
No. I thought the battle at the hotel was, I think, one of the best battles they've had.
It was the most dynamic battle they've had. There wasn't a lot of throwing people into people. So I'll give you that.
We had things that, like the goofy things that I like rocks and stuff like that, but with some actual gene slamming stakes. I think it was definitely the best drawn episode.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything glaring. Like there weren't any straight on shots of the Sharks that I noticed.
It was a couple, but they looked good. Like the muscle tone was defined, the lines were cleaned. When they were all coming out of the rubble.
Yeah, that was cool.
Like that should be used in the opening credits because it just looks awesome. And it's also the episode with the most stock footage.
That's what I think irked me too. This felt like the laziest episode to me. I mean, last episode was bad. This episode was twice as bad as that.
Especially if they were picking up a storyline from like 2 seasons ago. It would make sense. This was, to most kids, this was like 2-3 weeks ago.
Well, that and like the footage they recycled was some of the stuff they had in previous episodes, like with the dragon thing. But a lot of it's just like random crowd shots, people exiting tunnels, face reactions. It wasn't anything that was an actual callback to a previous episode, you know?
So do we have any predictions for next week?
Well, I know you mentioned one earlier this episode. You want to just say that again so we have it where it belongs for once?
Yeah, but what was it?
You thought the hotel manager was going to come back and get jeans.
That's what I said. So Paradigm offers the hotel manager a job. I'm thinking that he's going to gene slam him next week. And we're going to get a new Seviet.
I think we'll get a new Seviet. I don't think it'll be him. But I do also think that we're going to see Paradigm become more of a powerful figure in terms of politics next episode. Like I think he's not going to wait to use his leverage on the mayor. He's going to use that right away.
And what do you think he wants out of the deal?
Power.
Well, I know power, but what's his diabolical scheme?
No, that's it. He just wants power for power's sake. That's why he wants to gene slam all these things. He wants control over them. Everything about his whole shit has been control. And who's more controlling than a political leader? He wants power for power's sake. That's it.
Nate, now it's time in the show where we want to get you learnt up. It's time now for Street Facts.
Oh, you're waiting for me to say the other part?
Yeah.
Shark fact.
There you go. In 1902, the world's first speeding ticket was issued. The driver was traveling at 45 miles per hour.
Oh, wow. 45 in 1902. That is crazy fast.
Right? On like wagon wheels.
Yeah, like your brakes probably could. That would make sense. Like your brakes can't stop you at that point. Hey, Richard.
Yeah.
The smallest shark in the world is the dwarf lantern shark. So called because it is very small and emits light, and it's a shark.
And now something very special. Our guest today is a writer, editor, and producer who has created content in a wide variety of media, including newspapers, magazines, comic books, regular old books, websites, CD-ROMs, remember those, and video games. He's currently an instructor at the Game Design and Development Program at Cogswell College in San Jose, California, and a prominent game writer with credits on such recent titles as Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil, Mafia 3, and Star Wars Battlefront. But of course today we want to talk to him about the limited series of Street Sharks comics he did for Archie Comics in the 90s. Please put your fins together and give a warm Fission City welcome to Mr. Evan Skolnick.
Hello. and Street Sharks, the highlight of my career.
Oh, we know.
Of all those things you mentioned, Street Sharks rises above them all. A fin above. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm glad to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, prerequisite question. How did you even get started in comic books, strategy guides? Where did it all start?
Well, I mean, I don't know how far back you want to go, but I was at Marvel Comics as a writer and editor for a number of years, during the boom and the bust of the early to mid 90s. And, when they began downsizing the editorial staff, I was in that first wave, partly because I had pretty much volunteered myself to be in that first wave because I was getting quite a bit of writing work at that time. And I felt that I could probably withstand that more than maybe some other folks. So this was at a time, at Street Sharks, this was at a time that I had basically was pure freelance writer for comics, and I was doing some Marvel work. And Justin Gabri, who had moved over, who I had worked with at Marvel, had moved over to Archie, and he got in contact with me during this time, pretty early after I had left Marvel, and said, "Hey, I got this thing. I think you might be good for it." So that's how I got the gig on writing the Street Sharks.
And then, so were you basically just given the script to the first couple episodes and just say, adapt this, or how was that process?
I believe so. It's a little foggy. It's been a while, and but as I recall, yeah, those first 3 issues were an adaptation of, I assume, the script for the first few episodes of the show. Because if you look at the credits, there's a writing credit that's not me, and I'm adapting it. So I believe it. I don't think I had the actual animation. I think I had scripts, or maybe even just a treatment or a style guide. I'm not quite sure what I was working from.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you had, the turnarounds or some type of series Bible from the show to work with, or were you just kind of left to your own devices?
We must have had that, because the artist would have needed all of that for reference. So I'm guessing, again, this is mostly from deductive memory here than actual real memory. We must have had the style guide and turnarounds and model sheets and all that good stuff for the artist to work off, and I'm guessing I would have had access to that too. But I was adapting, the first storyline, the origin story of the Street Sharks. And then after that, Justin had me do a 3-issue arc after that of an original storyline.
So can you talk and compare the process of adapting those original scripts as opposed to the direction you wanted to take your own story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, when you're adapting someone else's work, you want to honor it and to be faithful to it, but while still realizing that this is a different medium, moving it from animation to the printed page and to sequential art. So, but really, mostly just being faithful to it and making sure it was going to work on the page. And as I recall, we were doing the Marvel method for this production, which was much more common back then than it is now. And the Marvel method being the writer writes a plot, basically describing what happens on each page, but not prescribing how many panels or what the camera angles are for the most part. Maybe putting in some placeholder ideas of what the characters are saying, but not actual dialogue. Then the penciler takes that, and the penciler decides the camera angles and the number of panels, and then those pencils come back to the writer, and then reacting to that, we write the dialogue, write the script. And so that was the process we used, and so I would have been telling the penciler what is happening, but not how to frame it out. And basically that puts the artist in more of the director's chair, which is what I believe is correct, because I think probably the artists are a better choice, the person to figure out how to visually pace it. And so whereas writing, so adapting that screenplay is basically making it fit in the pages we have, in the time we have on the page. And then whereas with your own storyline, obviously you've got some more leeway. But in both cases, everything you do is going to be reviewed by a licensor, right? So we don't own, Archie Comics didn't own Street Sharks, so it was a licensed product, and so it would have to have another level of review. The folks who own the property would have to approve everything we did. And so there's still that additional layer of review. on whether it's adapting or original.
Now, can you remember a case in either Street Sharks or looking through your credits? It looks like you've done quite a few adaptions of any issues that the owning company would have, or any notes that you might have gotten.
Oh goodness, yes. Where to start? I mean, this goes back to my time at Marvel, because I worked on some licensed material at Marvel too. Like, for example, I was the assistant editor on RoboCop, and the Marvel version of RoboCop. And I remember the licensor saying, "Can the RoboCop not shoot people, please?" And we're like, "What?" And then I was the writer on the ill-fated Terminator 2 comic book series, which was my big break. And they said, "Hey, could you? Your proposal has some time travel, and can you not have time travel in your series?" And we're like, "What?" Like these foundational aspects of these properties that the company paid for. But I've worked with Disney, and you can imagine the kind of feedback we would get from Disney as well. Mostly on the art side, actually, not the story side. We had no problem with stories, but yeah. And in this particular case, I don't recall any particular issues. Although looking through these issues recently, in preparation for this little chat we were going to have, and we are having now, I noticed a few things that I clearly were edited that were maybe a little too saucy. I was having a little fun. I wasn't taking this super seriously, but it was paying work, and I was going to be professional about it. But I was putting in some fun stuff for the grown-ups, like you see in a Warner Brothers cartoon. If you watch it when you're an adult, suddenly you see a whole other layer of things that are going on. And there's a panel where Benz says to the sharks, it seems like they're endlessly fighting and then running away, fighting and running away. I noticed this pattern in the story as I was looking it over again. And one of these occasions, Ben says to the sharks, "Get your watertight fins over here." I'm like, "What? No. I would have written watertight butts." And I know that I would have done that, and someone changed it to watertight fins, which makes zero sense. And yet they didn't edit the other thing I found, which I couldn't believe was actually in there, and made it through there, which was one of the sharks is fighting, one of the Slobster or somebody, and he says, and he's using a hockey stick to hit a puck at him or something at him, and he says, "I'm going to give you a flying puck," and that made it through somehow. I don't know how that got through, but yeah, you got to kind of roll with the punches when you're working on unlicensed products, and especially licensed products that are perceived to be aimed at young kids.
So I have a question for you, though, because I'm just dying of curiosity. Do you remember the general plot of your independent 3 issues that came out?
Oh, you had to ask me that, right?
I have to. I'm sorry. I could not resist that temptation.
Well, I dug through my back issues here in my garage trying to find these particular ones, and I could only find the 3rd issue of 3, but they were being invaded. There's a giant crab, and there's an underwater Atlantis-like population that's attacking Fission City. Looks very, very dramatic stuff, but I'm only catching the climax here. So it looks like they discover an underwater city like Atlantis right off of the shore of Fission City, and they're pretty annoyed by all the stuff that's been going on with the pollution. Sounds kind of familiar, and sure enough, they come to a state of war, and so the street sharks, being half human and half of the sea, are caught in the middle. So that seems to be what I was going for there, but I only have the 3rd issue to go by.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it sounds so much more interesting than anything we've seen on the show so far.
Well, just the thing is, they'd never be able to animate that's the beauty of comics. If you can draw it, it can happen. They wouldn't animate, hundreds of Atlanteans invading Fission City,
Right. I think we drew about 10, so I don't know if it was that big a difference, because it's like that. It's like that old there's a comic strip going around that shows the typical comic book writer sitting next to an artist on a panel at a comic book convention saying, and the advantage of working in comics over other media is that if I want to show 1 million spaceships come in, I can do that. It won't cost any extra money or time. And the artist is like, "I'll kill you!" He jumps at him. But we did used to say that, because it was true to a degree. We would pay an artist the same amount of money for any page of art in comics, and so we knew that the budget was essentially limitless, right? We didn't have to be constrained by by how many extras or how many costumes or how many costume changes. It's amazing how even now, having worked in video games now for 20 years now, I still stumble over things like this. And one of the greatest examples I can think of where I screwed up was in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, the video game, on which I was the lead writer, and we were adapting the Civil War storyline. And there was one point at which in our storyline would it appeared that Nick Fury and a bunch of heroes had died, and we wanted to have a funeral scene. And in the cutscene, I wrote it that all the heroes were in funeral black and formal dress. That's really easy to do in a comic book, and that's really hard to do in 3D. That's like basically asking for 40 new models. And they were like, nope. So when you see that scene, everyone's dressed in their superhero getup. It looks ridiculous. There's like total disrespect. No one changed for the funeral, but they couldn't. It would have been hugely expensive for one shot. And so, in comics there are things that we just forget that are difficult to do in other media forms, and that can be very expensive to do when you're talking about making a new model for a character, for example.
You brought up video games. How did you make the transition from comic books to video games in 2000 or so?
It just kind of happened. I mean, it wasn't a plan, but I had very much been into video games for a long time, since they came out pretty much. That's kind of aging myself there. But, I didn't see a place for myself in that field for a long time because it seemed like it was mostly technical, and I was not a technical person. But after comics after I left, kind of put comics in the rearview mirror because there just didn't seem like there was a place in the field for me anymore. The industry was getting smaller and smaller. And I started working I worked with Fabian Nicieza, my old friend and mentor for many years, and he at Acclaim Valiant for a while. And Acclaim, the video game company, had bought Valiant Comics, and they were integrating more video game related content into our mix of stuff. So we were starting to do, Turok, and we were starting to do not only Turok comics, but like the Turok video game strategy guide. And then there was a Turok magazine we put out after that with Turok Comic Book Magazine that had that and a few other characters that were coming up. But we also began getting involved in the strategy guide side of things. So seeing how games were made from the publishing side, not from the developing side. And so I was beginning to get a little bit of familiarity with that. And then when that kind of closed out, I realized that the web was taking off, the internet was taking off, and I felt that was a place of growth. So I wanted to get a handle on that. So I basically spent a year working at a multimedia web shop, CD-ROM shop, as a project manager, learning how to manage technical projects for corporate clients, like PaineWebber and stuff. And I learned how to do that. And then that just kind of naturally progressed into entertainment CD-ROMs and things for like digital trading cards and whatnot with Star Trek and baseball. And then that led into video games. Being a senior producer at a very small studio in New York City, and that led to another studio, and I was off to the races. And it was really, and while I was there in the industry, I came in as a producer. So again, kind of leveraging my experience managing creative teams, I began to get involved in the story side of things because there really weren't professional writers in general working in games at that time, and sometimes the games would show that. So I could say, hey, I see that dialogue. You want me to just do a polish on that? Because I kind of used to do this for a living.
Now, I also see that you're involved in voiceover work.
Yeah, so basically, we would, I would help write the dialogue for a game along with other people, and then someone needed to be there when it was recorded. And before the days of the internet and fast internet connections, we actually would be flown to LA or wherever they were doing that, and someone who understood the story and the game had to be there to make sure we were getting what we needed. For example, the kind of read for each line we would need, someone who understood if we needed to improvise, how far we could push it before it would no longer work for the circumstances in the game at that point. And so I began doing quite a bit of that, and I got to work with some amazing actors, both name famous ones and ones that are kind of more behind the scenes, but very, very talented people. And so you kind of get to watch audio directors, because I wasn't really directing, I was kind of consulting, but you get to watch these audio directors really tease out the most amazing work from these talented folks. And it's the best part of the process for a writer working on a game that's going to be voiced, because for a long time your lines are just words on a page or in a spreadsheet often, and and then an actor brings them to life, and suddenly like they find things in the lines that you didn't even know were there, like meaning that you didn't even put in there, but that you feel is right. So it's like in comics the magical time was getting the pencils back, and in video games I find the magical time is getting to be in the booth, or these days to be zoomed in or Skyped in to the session by remote, because we don't fly out anymore. We just do it over the internet. We can hear very well and communicate very well with the actor. But to hear them breathe life into the characters and the lines is just incredible.
If there's one piece of media that you haven't had a chance to work on yet that you would really just love to get your hands on, what would you choose it to be?
Well, I've always been very close to Star Trek, near and dear to my heart. And when I was in like high school going to college, I started writing a Star Trek novel and actually got an agent and pitched it to Pocket Books at the time, and it got rejected, very politely rejected, and rightly so. I wasn't ready, and I think that seems like it's always been at the periphery. I pitched for Star Trek Starfleet Academy at Marvel, didn't quite get it. I can't say I'm a huge fan of recent iterations of the franchise.
That's fair too.
But I'm more of a classic Trek guy, going through from original and going through Next Generation and Voyager, and that's basically where I stop. But I would love. I think that's probably the final frontier for me, would be to get a chance to really, but definitely focused on the classic interpretation of the characters. So that would be very special to me. I would love a chance to do that someday.
You hear that, Paramount Plus? Do you hear that?
Well, I just sank my chances by trashing everything they've done in the last 15 years. But
that's how you get their attention.
If Ronald J. Street Shark, the creator of Street Sharks, came to you tomorrow and said, okay, we need you to start writing something, I don't care if it's a book, a movie, a TV show, a video game, pitch me something, what would you want to go for? And how would you modernize it to a current audience?
I don't know that I would say yes to that proposition.
Fine, a gun is held to your head by Ronald J. Street Shark.
As I said, I'm not sure I would say yes to that proposition, even with a gun. No, I don't know. I mean, you look at what has been done with, Ninja Turtles and Transformers and different directions that you can take one of these toy-based franchises from that era, and there's different ways you can go. Do you kind of lean into the humor and silliness of it, like with Ninja Turtles has generally done? Or do you kind of try to take it as seriously as you can get away with, like with Transformers? Or do you just throw up your hands and say, no, just shoot me? And I'm probably going to go with the third one. I would say, go ahead, pull that trigger.
Evan, I'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about Cuphead.
It was a really fun project to work on. It was a very brief time as well. As happens often in games, the writer is often brought in kind of late. The team is often has an idea of what the story they want to tell and the world they want to make, and they begin making it. And sometimes they get very far along in that process before they bring someone like myself on board. And that was the case here. They had a very, the Moldenhauers had a very strong vision of what they wanted to do, and they reached out to me because I had worked in comics, and they felt that was a good fit. So they contacted me just through my website, and I was just kind of stunned because I'd seen the previews they had sent out, and everyone was like, oh, look at this game. It looks like you're jumped into the middle of a 1930s cartoon, right? It was all hand-drawn artwork, but it was by no means a guaranteed hit at this point, right? And so they really were taking a huge gamble. It was their personal money they were sinking into this thing.
Wow.
And so I was very excited to be part of it, and they basically contacted me and said, this is where we are. We're trying to finish this up in the next few months. Can you come in? And we always knew we needed a writer to help us across the finish line. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah. So yeah, they had already laid out a lot of the story structure and the game structure, and of course the themes and a lot of the characters. But I needed to give voice to them and write 1930s appropriate dialogue. So doing research, like watching the Three Stooges and Marx Brothers, if you can get paid to do that, that's a pretty good deal. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and of course it did very, very well. I don't think on the back of my writing at all, but it was still, fun to be a part of that and to see it come out and then watch people throwing their controllers at the screens because it's so hard. And I remember talking with Chad Moldenhauer about that during the processing. Do you really want to be this hard? I mean, is this really what you want to do? And they're like, yep. Are you sure? Because they're like, yep. So they had a very clear vision of what they felt this game should be, and they were obviously absolutely right because it was this massive hit, and I just, like I said, just really pleased to play any part at all in that production.
Are there? You probably can't answer that question.
You can always ask it. You can just say no.
I don't like rejection, Nathan.
Oh, that's fair.
No, are there any plans for any more future projects in that series, or?
Yeah, they've announced the DLC for that a while back, and they actually called it the Delicious Last Course DLC. So that's been revealed quite a while back, and they're still working on it. I'm not working on it with them right now, unfortunately.
Well,
but
then who cares? Boo Cuphead.
It may just be that logistically it might not have, we were working from across the country from each other, and they may have just found a more local solution, which is fine. That happens.
What's your favorite piece of 30s slang or 30s insult that you stumbled across in your research?
Oh my goodness! I wish I'd known you were going to ask me that, because I have a spreadsheet that I'm not kidding. I made, because I was, like I said, I was doing research, and the challenge is to use that language that isn't like Chicago like gangster language, but because that can also it's very easy to fall into that. And so I was really trying to make sure I got it right. So now I've got the spreadsheet open. I think the one that we all know is we all enjoy from the Joker saying this is to pull a boner. That's just too easy. We didn't get that one in there, but you pull a boner means to make a mistake or play a trick on someone. Yeah.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
But let's see. I calling someone a stumble bum. I wish that would come back. Yeah, you stumble bum. It basically means a bum. For the love of Pete and things like that. Lots of little things. I mean, I tried to make it as authentic as I could without making people not understand what the heck they were saying. So it was lots of fun. But yeah, I did that research, and every time I heard a phrase I didn't think was something that you hear every day now, I would jot it down and try to find a way to work it in if I could. It was fun.
That's awesome.
That sounds amazing. I want that spreadsheet. If I give you my email address, can you just kind of send that my way? So, Evan, what do you have in the works right now?
Well, I've been teaching the last few years. I'm kind of teaching the next generation of game writers and narrative designers. But at you said Cogswell College. Actually, it was Cogswell College until last year. It's been recently rebranded as University of Silicon Valley, but same place. We just got back to on-site teaching, which is cool. Nice. But I'm working on several projects as well. I still do freelance game writing, and the only one that's been announced that I can talk about is called Arctic Awakening, and that is a game being developed, a small studio developing this game, and it is a game along the lines of like Firewatch, if you've played that, or the Telltale types of games where I used to work. So it's a choice-based, relationship-based gameplay, not like a heavy shooter type thing. It's more of a puzzle solving and making narrative decisions that will affect your relationship with characters and affect your situation. So there's a trailer that came out a few months ago, and I'm serving as kind of a consultant and script editor on it. So I'm not really writing the story myself. I'm just kind of, again, the team has an idea of the vision, the story they want to tell, but they will often bring someone like me on to help them polish it up and course correct and kind of get it to the level of quality they want to see.
That's going to be so rewarding in its own way. I mean, it must be a very different feeling than writing it yourself, but to be able to hone the next series of people to be able to take on the torch it's really cool.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to my time as an editor at Marvel, right? So I was working with writers and artists, and my friend and fellow editor there, Tom Brevoort, who is still there, I think the only person who's still there from when I was on staff there, he would say, I think it was him. He said, an editor's job is to hire the right people and get out of the way, and that is largely correct. Although you would still work with the writer and talk with them about the stories and help them find their way, without stepping on them, without pushing them in a certain direction or this direction or that direction, but helping them to find their best work. And so I've always been very comfortable with that type of role. And in fact, I might even be more comfortable with that than facing a blank page, which is what you do as a writer when you are responsible for everything. So kind of coming to the table with something already there for me to elevate is comfortable for me. And it's also something that it's easier for me to focus on while I'm also focusing on being a full-time, professor of practice at a university.
So, Evan, what do you want the people at home to know?
What I want them to know, vaccines work. I mean, how's that?
Yay!
All right.
We solved the problem. We did it, guys.
All of your millions of listeners will now fall into line and help us get rid of this thing.
The fives of people.
Yeah, we're huge in Texas right now, so that's good.
If we could get him to do like a PSA, like the old G.I. Joe PSAs, but with the Street Sharks. One of the episodes...
The Street Sharks say vaccines work.
Vaccines are awesome. One of the episodes we just reviewed maybe 3 episodes ago, Dr. Paradigm had a vaccine that he was going to inject everybody in Fish and City with so that they wouldn't be gene slammed by the evil Street Sharks. And, everybody was anti-vaccine, and we're just watching this going like, how can we even review this without, like, so many parallels to today? Like,
I think
feels...
I think that's in the issues I wrote. I think that's in the same, I think I adapted that. That sounds very familiar.
That was early then, because that was like maybe episode 4 or 5.
Vaccines don't change your genes. Take it from the Street Sharks.
Liberal government's not going to slam my genes.
What's in my jeans is private.
That's why I wear this belt.
Oh my God.
So stupid. Evan, you've been an absolute delight. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. Again, thanks for having me on. It's really, any excuse to dig through my garage for Street Sharks comics, and I'll take it.
Evan, and just lastly, where can people find you on the Twitters, the Facebooks, My Faces?
Best place is probably just at my website at evanskolnick.com.
We'll have a link in the show notes.
And you will be amazed of what you find there. I scrolled through that thing for 10 minutes, and I was just shocked of what a part this guy played in my childhood.
Well, I'm old. So,
I didn't want to make you feel old. But I guess there's no way to say that.
Well, again, thanks so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. And anytime you want to chat, I'm here.
All right, bud.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you for sticking it out another week with us here on Patreon. I'm your host, Richard Sullivan.
And I'm your co-host, Nate Magnuski.
And as always, be a freak in the sheets.
And a shark in the streets.
Awesome!